By its nature, the Anzac Day March has a little more show than dawn service. That's what you'd expect. One of the highlights of this show will be the flyover, and participating in that is World War II Bomber Command veteran Cyril Johnson. His story is extraordinary, as Leah McLennan reports.
Rightio, Grandad.
At 94,
Slide on down.
most people might be reluctant to get into a tiger moth.
All the way.
But not Cyril Johnson. All he needs is a bit of assistance from the grandchildren.
Beautiful.
With a sunny sky and low winds, it's the perfect day for flying. It's an entirely different experience to Cyril Johnson's younger days, flying over occupied Europe.
There was a thing that the enemy had produced, and that was the radar that would turn the searchlights on after they had locked on electronically. So the first thing you knew was the lot came on at once. And of course the other trick was they fired the missiles at you before they switched the light on, so they'd arrive at the same time, which was a bit depressing. And of course, when we got cold like that, you had to think of something to get out of it as fast as possible, which wasn't always satisfactory.
When World War II broke out, Cyril Johnson signed up for the Air Force and soon became a pilot in Britain's Bomber Command. While he's typically humble about his part in the war, his family always encouraged him to write his exploits down. While Cyril never got around to it, his granddaughter Kate did.
I just said, you know, we're looking for ideas for Christmas presents for the cousins. How about I type out some of the stories? And I think I was quite naive, which is probably what gave me the confidence to start the project. I didn't realise that a book would end up so thick. I just thought, how many stories can there be? And then about 7 years later, I'd finished the interviewing process.
Did doing the book make you, I guess, see your grandfather in a different light?
Yeah, I think it did.
A rat bag. Yeah.
Although it was against Air Force rules, Cyril kept diaries throughout the war, which helped Kate put the book together. They include stories of many near misses and lucky escapes, like the time he returned from a long and difficult mission over Poland, not knowing he had a flare hanging from the plane.
I'd just jettisoned the last of the fuel and the dripping petrol of the flare hanging down, and we landed. And we were by ourselves because we were so late. Everyone else seemed to have gone, so there weren't too many people. The people that were there, a few people, suddenly disappeared. They didn't like the look of things. They could see what I couldn't see. I could see this flare hanging down, ready to go off, and the petrol hanging over the top of it.
In 1940, Cyril was forced to make a crash landing on a flight from Baghdad to Singapore. It resulted in a major back injury, which ended his service with Bomber Command. But flying has remained a part of his life. His son Steve is a pilot and the proud owner of 2 tiger moths.
My earliest recollection as a 4-year-old was with a wind-up model aeroplane in my hand. And given my father's passion and achievements in flying, you should also understand that my mother was an air hostess for Scottish Airlines in the brave days of flying around Iceland and Greenland and all those terrible places in the old Dakotas.
That's the ejection seat, you know that one.
Barry Hills has lovingly restored many tiger moths at his airfield on Highmarsh Island. A gathering of the old war birds on his property is a chance for a few old war veterans to relive some old memories.
The least we, my fellow tiger moth pilots, could do is to take these veteran pilots up for a flight, and what a thrill we would get out of it. And maybe they could teach us how to fly them too.
Today, Cyril Johnson, along with his son and other tiger moth enthusiasts, commemorated Anzac Day by flying in formation over the march.
For us, it's a wonderful experience, and I'm told for those on the ground, hearing those 5 gypsy engines flying over is a very emotional experience, and we love to share that.
Each year there are fewer World War II veterans left to march on Anzac Day. Kate Johnson hopes more young people will take a leaf out of her book and help their stories live on.
I think if our younger generation could grasp how amazing the sacrifices were that were made by the elderly, they'd just be awestruck like I am. It's not taught particularly well in schools, and so once you start getting below the headline politics into the individual stories, it's phenomenal to hear what Grandad would say was normal. And I'd think, nope, that's certainly not normal today. And stories where, I mean, a lot of them were truly tragic and truly touching, but that is part of war and the human side that is often not really exposed.
Cyril Johnson believes it was mainly luck that got him through the war. With a 44% death rate in Bomber Command, many weren't as lucky. It's why Cyril Johnson says war is not something to enter into lightly.
I think it's important to know that it's something to be avoided if you can do it with honour. But if you can't avoid it, go for it and don't give in.